Man, this NBA season, just the sports season in general, is just going off crazy. The NBA playoffs, great games last night. Not a good game if you're a Knicks fan, but as far as the Lakers and Warriors, that series is crazy. We're going to cover a lot of things today: NBA basketball, NFL football. Got a special guest coming on the show today. Thank you guys for joining in. I appreciate it. All right. Thank you for joining the show today, Justin Henry. What's going on, my man?
Big B, what's going on, my man? I'm glad to be here. I know it's taking a little bit for us to get connected, but man,
right.
Seeing your work on TikTok, bro, and I love what you're doing.
I appreciate it. Same here, man. Thank you for taking the time. So let's just jump into this, man. That game last night, the Warriors and the Lakers. Look, for me, I thought the Warriors gave it away more than the Lakers won the game, in my personal opinion. I just thought the Warriors were getting open shots and just missed. They just missed.
You know, it's one of those things, man, where I think defensively the Lakers are there, and obviously they can get more effective shots in the paint, but it's you live by the three, you die by the three, and that's the name of the game when it comes to the Warriors. So we've seen it in past years where it actually works, right? They're out shimmying and doing look away and threes, but at the end of the day, in playoff time, you got to be able to make crunch shots, and you have to be able to play defense, and that's what the Lakers can do. They have guys, not just Braun, not just AD, guys all over. D. Russ, Reeves. We see Lonnie Walker out here hitting shots in clutch. So to me, you got to have guys that can hit the dagger, and for whatever reason, it feels like Steph is not that guy.
He isn't. Yeah, that's the one knock that you can always bring up about him that nobody ever wants to talk about. When it gets into the clutch, he's never that dude. Like literally never that dude when it comes to the playoffs.
He's undersized. I mean, when you're 6'3", 185, you don't really have the frame to push people off. If you get a bigger defender on you, he has the quickness, but he's not really a quick downhill guy. He's a lateral between the legs, behind the back. Let me get my shot up. Everybody in the world knows Steph is trying to get to his spot, which is the three-point line. So you can kind of aggressively defend the three-point line and know he's not trying to blow by you for a little floater. At the end of the day, like that's the difference between him and a Braun, Jason Tatum, a Devin Booker, somebody who can get to their spot and shoot over a defender. Curry got that little one motion shot, which works for the three-point line if you're coming off a screen. But if you're trying to get that last second, 10 seconds left in the game, Steph Curry shot, they got to look for somebody else.
They got to get somebody else. That's the one thing that a lot of people, I mean, obviously you get the casual fans out there, but people that understand basketball, they always say Steph Curry has to get a screen to get his shot off. He is not just breaking you down off the dribble doing that. It's just not something that he can do. And he's not big enough. It's just what you said. He's just not big enough to be able to do that. I don't want to knock him.
It's not even a knock. Like that's just his game is predicated on the three ball. It's predicated on getting open and hitting open shots and tough three-pointers from 35 feet out. Like that's what his game is predicated on. It's not predicated on last second shots and heroics. That needs to be somebody else. And we saw in the championship runs that they've had, it's been Andre Iguodala, it's been Kevin Durant. It has not been Steph Curry. So through his career, if you have to give him a knock, like at the end of the day, he's not going to be in the GOAT conversation. We're not talking about that with Steph. But that is a knock that he has to deal with for the rest of his career. I mean, unless he grows 3 inches or develops some type of two-motion shot.
Absolutely. Now, having said that, Steph doesn't. I guess I should say he doesn't get the blame for last night. Look, here's my take on it. A lot of people are giving Jordan Poole a ton of shit, and I'm not going to say he doesn't deserve it. But let's just think about what Jordan Poole is. He's a volume shooter. You know, he doesn't shoot great from the field, but he averages 15 shots a game and 30 minutes a game. Well, he played 10 minutes last night and he had 4 shots. What do you expect him to do? The guy that we should be killing is Klay Thompson.
Ooh, he was having a brick fest last night. We've seen, the only thing is Klay's earned it, though. He's earned the right to miss those shots because we've seen him hit those shots for his entire career. Jordan Poole he got the bag because he got punched by Draymond.
Yeah.
Let's call it what it is.
Yeah.
That was a sympathy bag, and they gave that to Jordan Poole. He earned it last year in the playoffs, but this team they don't rely on Jordan Poole, and I don't see them relying on Jordan Poole in the near future. I think he might have an exit this might be Jordan Poole's last season because of all the turmoil that's going on with him. To me, I never expected him to be the guy. He's more Jamal Crawford than he is Steph Curry, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, like, that's who they got in the locker room, and they got to deal with that, man.
Well, and I thought at the beginning of the season, I didn't think there was any way that they were going to be able to keep him or Draymond. But when they paid him, I'm like, okay, well, they got to keep him. But I'm like, I think even at this point, even in Draymond's advanced age and what he can do, he's still better for the Warriors than what Jordan Poole is.
I kind of think Draymond on the court, yes, he is. On the court mentally, he knows where to be, he knows the spots defensively, he still got it. But off the court and dealing with some of this other stuff, I feel like Dre's got to go. Like, he needs a fresh start somewhere else. This team, every time something happens late in the game, he's sitting there going like this, I didn't foul him. And we know how he kind of barks at teammates. He'll bark at whoever. It doesn't matter. The refs. It's become more of a dark cloud, and he's hanging on a lot to those old championships. And I get it. There's a lot of prestige with that. But at some point, Draymond, if you can't outgrow your on-court persona, there's going to be, like, the team has to move on. They've had you be the villain. They've had you be the enforcer. That time has passed, man. This is a new Warriors team. I think we're going to see a change in the guard here this offseason.
Well, look, you're not going to get an argument from me. I predicate myself on being the president of the Draymond Club, of the Draymond Green Hater Fan Club. I am the president, the chairman of the board, all this. He's a Hall of Famer. And don't get me wrong, I think he'll get into the Hall of Fame, but that's because they let everybody into the Hall of Fame these days.
He's a Hall of Fame talent, Hall of Fame facilitator, defender, and he's a champion. You can't knock him for that. He's been a core piece of that. He's an Olympian. So I can't knock too much Draymond on the court outside of the yelling and barking at teammates and refs and everybody else, fans. But there's always been players like that. Charles Barkley was a player like that. There's been those. Dennis Rodman was kind of an instigator. So I can't knock him too much for it. Draymond's a Hall of Famer, man. Take it easy on him.
No, I can't buy it. I mean, like I said, he'll get in. And I'm not going to be too mad for him getting in, but they let everybody in these days. But that's neither here nor there. Moving to the Lakers, man, I look, everybody thought that the Lakers were going to need, and I was one of them, that they were going to need a monster game from AD. Well, he didn't really have, he had a good game, but he didn't have that 35-25 game to win, man. They kind of locked down what the Warriors were doing. Now, granted, I think the Warriors missed a lot of shots, but look, let's just call it what it is. The Lakers were playing good defense. They were switching out. They were playing good defense, and they are more athletic. Even with what the Warriors got, they can still bring, I don't know if they're more athletic, but they got athletic guys that can bring in to do the job. And I just think it's more than what the Warriors can handle at this point.
The Lakers are a better team than the Warriors. Yeah. And it's tough to say that out loud and without getting a whole lot of backlash from, like you mentioned, casual fans. They're going to say, oh, no, the Warriors are better. But when you look at the team holistically, the Lakers are a deep team. They got a number of guys that can come off the bench and score 15 points in any given point in time. Dennis Schroeder, Austin Reeves, D'Angelo Russell, like we talked about, Lonnie Walker. These guys can come in and score in microwave fashion and get hot. And then when you look at the Warriors, it's kind of the opposite. For as deep as this team appears on paper, and you talk about guys like Kuminga, Moody, Kevon Looney, Gary Payton II, they're limited in their that number 4 score. We're going to get 20 to 30 out of Steph. We're going to get 20 to 30 out of Clay. We're going to get 10 to 8 out of Draymond Green.
Correct.
But Jordan Poole, when you're not consistent, Andrew Wiggins isn't a guy that's going to go drop 30 on your head.
Nope.
Who else you got? And so this team, for the depth that we think that this Warriors team has, A, they don't have the scores. B, they don't have the size. Outside of Kevon Looney, who really can't be on the floor when AD is on there because he doesn't create enough outside presence. That's why they had to put in JaMychal Green for game 2. He doesn't go for 15. They probably lose that game as well.
Exactly.
To me, there's a very big problem with this Warriors team. They're going to have to start from the inside out and kind of blow this thing up, in my opinion.
Well, another thing that they don't have is another facilitator. If you don't have Steph and Draymond out there, who is facilitating for anybody else? Because the guys that you brought up, Kuminga, Moody, even Klay Thompson, those guys can't set up anybody, much less set up themselves. So when you don't have guys that can facilitate in the NBA, it makes it difficult, man. And that's why I always say that Draymond, even though, like I said, I'm the president of his hater club, he can facilitate. He gets guys open. He can make plays that other guys on their team literally can't do, which makes them valuable. But going back to the Lakers, they have those guys. They got guys that can absolutely do it. And it's funny that you say that. It's not funny, but it's so true. The Lakers are a better basketball team than Golden State.
I say that because you see all the Lakers stuff in the back, man. I'm a Laker fan, but at the end of the day, it's true though. Like, and it's tough to say that because this team was in the 12th seed, 13th seed for a majority of the season. You're like, they're not good. But we forget D'Angelo Russell was a top pick in the draft. We forget that a lot of these pieces have had roles on other teams now that they're here. Troy Brown was a guy that was highly thought of in Chicago and in Washington. You see Austin Reeves kind of elevating his level of play. It's not like these are just bums on the Lakers. These are guys, almost castaways. Rui Hachimura was a top pick on the Washington Wizards. Mm-hmm. And now we're seeing them play in the role that they're designed for. It's not the top guy. It's not the secondary guy. It's the guy that can accumulate points at a high scale in the fourth quarter, in the second quarter, at random points in times when LeBron and AD just don't have it. Right. Like, that's what this team needed. And they got a lot of those pieces at the deadline. A guy like Malik Beasley, who we haven't even really seen him this postseason have an effect. He's a microwave scorer too. So I like what the team did at the deadline. I think this is a very underrated Laker team. Even still now, up 3-1 against the Warrior team, it's still a very underrated Laker team who's probably the best team in the West.
If this Laker team is put together at the beginning of the season, and this is what they are, I think the Lakers rival having the best record in the league. I think they are that good.
That only if AD and LeBron are still healthy, right?
Well, yeah, that's a different story. That's a different conversation. You know they're gonna miss 30 games, so that is what it is. Speaking of the other series, man, Denver and Phoenix. First of all, I thought the series was over. The way that it was going, I was like, Phoenix doesn't have a chance. But then something happened. Chris Paul got hurt.
Yep.
And when Chris Paul got hurt, everything changed. And that's bad to say, isn't it? That a guy getting hurt changed the series for the good for you.
Yeah.
But it did. They play so much faster. Chris Paul just cannot play at that speed anymore. And Phoenix is so much better without him.
They get open, they get out and run, and you can tell offensively, even defensively, they can get back a little quicker. Things just move, and it's causing other guys to play a higher level too. You're not giving Campaign 14 minutes a game. Now he's getting a normal run in. You're getting the bench players a little bit more action. And then KD and Book just know their roles, and that's to score. They don't have to worry about anything else. Like, hey, Book is like, I could go drop 40. I know this is my role. I'm going to have the ball in my hands a little bit more. And I think that's a good thing for this Phoenix Suns team. The bad thing is Chris Paul wants to play again. The bad thing is he wants to come back. And I think until this series is over, Chris Paul probably needs to just sit out. They're going to go into Denver, probably take the L. That's just what's going to happen.
Right.
Game 6, Chris Paul's going to want to come back. Game 6 in Phoenix. And it's like this thing is working. I'm not sure it's the best move for him, but with the way KD and Book are playing right now, bro, it's going to be 6 or 7 at least. Well, it has to go 6 now, but
here's the thing, and I heard Tim Hardaway say this the other day. You get a growing pull, strain, whatever it is, you are not healthy in a week. You're just not healthy in a week. And that's what Chris Paul is going to try to come back and say that he's healthy in a week. I'm like, you're not. And so what's he going to do? He's going to come back. And what Tim Hardaway, and it's a great point, he said, he's going to end up coming back, and then he's going to get hurt again. And then what? I'm like, then he's going to be out for the rest of the playoffs.
All I know is
if they advance.
I'm 37, and I banged my foot the wrong way, and I'm hurting for like 3 weeks.
Yeah,
and Chris Paul's old too. You know what I'm saying? When we get up here in this age, just like things don't heal the same way. So
they don't.
CP, man.
The way that they are just a better basketball team. And look, we can say we can all love Chris Paul. We all want Chris Paul to get a ring, but personally, Chris Paul has to take when he comes back, if they survive, he got to take a secondary role. I think Monty Williams just has to tell him, hey, man, look, we are better playing this way. So either you get there with us or we got to sit you down a little bit more.
I don't think there's any way in hell they're getting Chris Paul to sit and take a secondary role next round. I think even this round, it's going to be a struggle, like game 6 or game 7, whenever he comes back. It will be tough to tell Chris Paul, Hall of Famer, you got a lower role on this team, but it's helped him so far in the last 2 games. Those are both at home. We'll see how it goes game 5. I'm not willing to give up and just say Chris Paul does not belong on the floor right now, but they look a little bit more explosive. I think in a series against the Lakers, it might be more advantageous to have Chris Paul on the floor.
Yeah, because he'll be able to control things a little bit more. Because Denver, while they got Joker, they like to get out and run too.
Yep.
They absolutely like to get out and run too. That's why I think the series is so good. Look, Joker is killing DeAndre Ayton. DeAndre Ayton should be ashamed of himself. Let's just say that. He should literally be ashamed of himself. He is getting murdered out there on the court.
Everybody that's played against Joker has got murdered this season. Everybody. He damn near averaged a triple-double this season. And, 20, what do you have the other day? It was a 25-15-15 game for the first time in NBA history. I can't remember the exact numbers. Then he comes out and drops 53 the next game. Ayton stood his own, in the first half of that game, was getting some good boards. Maybe the scoring's not there. But when you're not mentally all the way there, I'm not saying he's crazy or nothing, but when you're not like, hey, I want to play for this organization, he's still got a lot of past things with the contract and everything still bothering him. I'm like, bro, like, just go out there, be a third, fourth piece, continue to provide a spark. I ain't mad at DeAndre Ayton like everybody else is.
See, I think he's got more. I think he can score more if given the opportunities. I think he can do more. I think him and Monty Williams just hate each other. I think they hate each other, and I don't think he wants to be there anymore. Monty Williams doesn't think that he gives maximum effort all the time, and maybe he doesn't. But the bottom line is I think he can do more. He's got to do more if they're going to win the series. I think so. I mean, because unless Booker and KD are going to continue to get you 80, 90 points a night, if they're going to continue to do that, that's something different. But if they have a bad shooting night or just an average shooting, not even bad, just average. I mean, Booker's shooting 79%.
Yeah.
What are we talking about here?
That's going to be tough, bro.
Yeah.
He's 72. He's 72 over the home games, man. I don't know what they're going to do if he does have an off shooting night because the team's not deep at all. No. But Big B, I'm going to ask you something, bro. Yeah. How you feel about this series? You feel like it's Nuggets are going to win in 5 or 6? Like you feel like 5 or 6, they're going to win in 6? You feel like it's done? Or do you feel like the Suns have a legit chance to win this series?
I think the Suns have a chance now. And the reason is just what I said earlier. I think it's the Chris Paul thing. I just think they're better without him. I know that's crazy to say. I just think they're better without him. Now, it's just like you mentioned, I don't know if he's going to sit out. I don't know if you can make him sit out or whatever, or maybe he's not healthy. I think he tries to come back, but especially if they lose game 5. If they lose game 5, he will probably try to kill somebody to get on the court for game 6.
Well, that's been a knock in his career too. Like in the playoffs, he disappears, he gets hurt, so he has a lot legacy wise.
It was death, taxes, and Chris Paul getting hurt in the playoffs. I mean, it's the same thing, and it's sad. It is sad, but it's the same thing with like Kawhi. Like you just can't depend on him when you need to depend on him.
That Kawhi thing is so strange, bro. To see him just not be available randomly, like we're like, hey, he's going to play the next game, and then he just doesn't play. He tears his meniscus. He's out again. We've seen this happen for the second year in a row where Kawhi's just randomly out, bro. And he did it in San Antonio. It's kind of crazy to see what happens with Kawhi and these injuries.
I mean, that's a different conversation, but I've never seen a guy get hurt in a game where you're killing it, go out, play the next game, rip it up again, and then you're done. I've just never seen that before. Like, and I'm not doubting he tore his meniscus, but if you tear a meniscus in game 1, you usually don't play game 2. Not only did he play in game 2, he came out and dominated. It's crazy, man.
I'm trying to figure the Kawhi thing out. I'm not sure we ever will figure out Kawhi or his exact reasoning and rhyme rhythm to how he moves, but it's a very strange situation. It's similar to Zion, but we'll leave that for another conversation.
Yeah. So moving on, that Heat-Knicks series, man, I thought the Knicks had a chance if they won the first 2 games at home. When they lost the first game, I thought, okay, this series is over. Then Jimmy Butler didn't play in game 2, and they had to squeak by to win. I said, they can't win this series. Just looking at the game, the Knicks doesn't even look like they're putting forth the effort anymore.
The team is done. Knicks are done. They were just happy to be there, which is sad because they were the higher seed in this matchup, and the Heat know what to do. They turned it on. Their vets are playing at a high level. Kyle Lowry, Kevin Love, those guys are stepping up, and it's changed his team now. I think they smell the finals. And
Yeah.
that's what's changed this Heat team is like they were a game out of they were 4 minutes away from being
Mhm.
out of the playoffs. The Bulls had the lead, 12-point lead with 4 minutes left in that game, and Jimmy Butler went crazy.
Yep.
This team, I think they know there's a path to the NBA Finals. Knicks are done, man.
Yeah, the Knicks are done. In Julius Randle, I'm giving Julius Randle. I'm not necessarily giving him a pass, but I think he's still hurt.
Yeah,
I think he's still hurt because he doesn't have near the explosiveness that he had all season long. He settles for jump shots constantly. That was the one thing that even when he was healthy, people couldn't stand. And now that he's still hurt, he's just constantly settling for threes. You saw it last night. I mean, somebody did some cut-ups of him just not even trying to get back on defense. I'm like, man, a Tom Thibodeau team, you never see them give up like that. And they're finished. I think you're right. They were happy to be there, and now they're just done.
The effort. You never see that with Tibbs. Like the effort is always there for his teams. The one thing though, I will say this, and that they have to go get another scorer.
Absolutely.
Julius Randle is an all-star player. He's a scorer when he's healthy, but he's inconsistent, especially when it comes to playoffs. But they've drafted Obi Toppin, RJ Barrett. They've had Emmanuel Quickly off the bench. A lot of these guys they put a lot of draft capital into and gave prominent roles are not stepping up right now. And the one guy they've leaned on all season, Jalen Brunson, when he's got an elite defender on him, what changes now? Who's going to be the scorer for your team? The Knicks got to figure that out over this offseason.
And they had the opportunity the last offseason. They wouldn't give up RJ Barrett. They could have got Donovan Mitchell and just wouldn't give up on him. I'm like, well, this is what you get. Yeah. And even though they beat Cleveland, I get that. They beat Cleveland. That's fine.
I was going to say, I don't know if Donovan Mitchell is really the answer. But
Donovan Mitchell, I love, like I said, I'm a Louisville guy. I love Donovan Mitchell. But the bottom line is when it comes to the playoffs, he had that one big run.
Yeah.
But then after that, it's like, hey, man, your team always loses earlier than what they should in the playoffs. So,
yeah, D. Mitch, a better number 3 or 2 than he is a number 1. He can't be a first option. Like, I think that's kind of the same thing that's going on with Jalen Brunson right now. He's a little bigger and he can get a shot a little bit better than consistently than Donovan Mitchell can. But you got these undersized guards leading your team. It's tough to go all the way when that's the format.
It is tough. Last series, man, I think I didn't think this one would be that good. Look, I am not a Doc Rivers fan. I'm not. I don't think Doc Rivers is that good of a coach at all. Mr. Give up 3-1 leads.
Yeah.
But they are fighting. They are fighting. Now, it literally looked like last game, both the Sixers and the Celtics were trying to give the game to the other team. I was like, what are we doing here? They're just trying to give the game away. Both of them. Somebody had to win. The Celtics won. I don't know what's going to happen. I got a feeling the Celtics blow out the 76ers game 5.
I think the series is over in 6. And I think the Celtics are the winners of this series. And I think the only reason that this series is not a sweep, honestly not a sweep, is because James Harden has 2 40 burgers with late second threes. Yeah. That's it. This easily could have been a sweep in favor of Boston. And in the tough games, the tough moments, right now it feels like Philly has won those moments. When you expect a team with the more championship pedigree, I'm not going to call them champions yet, but that kind of pedigree and that path, you would think that they would win in those clutch moments, and they're not. It's like they're finding ways to lose. Marcus Smart always seems to have his hands on the ball in the last 30 seconds of the game for whatever reason. And, Tatum kind of made me question Tatum a little bit as well. Like I've always thought of Tatum as a guy who could go get that last second bucket and it wants that shot. And when he drove to the rim, I know he had 2 on him, but to me, he was right near the hole. That's a shot you should at least a floater, some kind of pull up. And he didn't take the shot. I was a little disappointed. The one player we haven't seen in those clutch situations that we need to see, Jaylen Brown.
Doesn't get enough shots. I've said it a million times. If him and Marcus Smart are equal or close to the same number of shots, the Celtics are going to struggle that game. Just bottom line. Well, lo and behold, that's exactly what. And Jaylen Brown was hitting his shots. Yeah. It wasn't like he was like 6 for 15. No. He wasn't. I'm like, why doesn't he get more shots? I can't figure it out. Well, then I can figure it out because the coaching. Look, we can love Mazzulla. I mean, he's not the same coach, man. He just isn't, and he's killing him. And then he admitted it. You admitted it. But that's something that me and you or anybody that watches the NBA knows. You're down 1 or down 2 with 15 seconds to go. You call a timeout. You give yourself the maximum number of opportunities. And I'm like, he didn't even do that. I'm like, what are you doing, man?
Twice.
Yes, twice. I mean, that's part of it. People think coaching don't matter in the NBA. Yeah, it does. Yeah, it does. It matters a lot.
I get letting your guys go. Like there's some times where you can let your guys go, but when you did it in the fourth quarter, it didn't hurt your team, and then you did it again in overtime. That should have been the time you corrected it and got things right, especially when we know the implications. A 3-1 lead is much, much different than 2-2.
Absolutely.
In the playoffs. It gives optimism to the other team. So I didn't like that call. I didn't like the last second shot. I didn't like how Tatum waited all the way till 5 seconds to pass the ball. Like if you were going to do that, you have to take the shot. You can't wait, let it trickle down to 4 seconds and then pass the ball. But I got to give Harden his props. Now that's the team I'm looking at, is if, hey, they're like, you know what? We got to continue to go through our MVP Embiid. They're going to lose this series very quickly. And I think that's the route they're going to go. But if they say, you know what? We kind of have something here with this Harden dropping 40, giving him a role as a scorer. This is the Sixers team that needs to be on the floor, not an Embiid-led team. It needs to be a Harden-led team.
Well, and the one thing, I don't think Embiid can do it because I think Embiid is hurt. And you saw it at the end of the game. Even though Harden made the shot, Joel Embiid is 3 feet from the basket with Jason Tatum on him, and he doesn't take the shot. I'm like, he's passing it out. I'm like, this guy. I mean, and Embiid's not usually that guy either. He will shoot. He'll get fouled. He'll do whatever. I'm like, this guy, he's not healthy. And so you're right. They got to go through Harden, and Garden's got to be the guy. And I think that even Embiid is saying it because he's saying to the media, yeah, I want Harden to be aggressive because I think he knows I don't have it. I just don't have it, and we need him to win.
Yeah, it would be a tough series if they're still trying to lead on the Embiid, get 30, and Harden go 20 and 10. Like, that's going to be a hard path for this team. They need Harden to drop 30 to 40. They need Embiid to be in the 20 to 30 range in order for them to give him a chance. I think Doc, this is an opportunity. One of the things, the knocks on Doc Rivers is that he doesn't make a lot of in-series adjustments.
No.
That's been his knock.
Yes.
So if there's a chance for him to do that, a chance for him to show that he shouldn't be fired after this series, because I think that will happen if they lose this series. Harden's gone, Doc Rivers is gone. If there's a chance that that's not going to happen, he's going to have to make some adjustments, some major adjustments this series.
The thing about Philly that's so disheartening, I know it's disheartening to Philly fans, is a guy out there that's making all that money at Philly that Tobias Harris. Just Tobias Harris. I mean, that guy, if he could just be the Tobias Harris that he was when they signed him, everybody would be fine there. He's just not. I don't understand what happened to him. He just turned into this average jump shooter that literally can't do anything else.
It's tough when you come from a team that doesn't have championship aspirations. When you're on a mediocre team like he was on the Clippers, it's like your role's different. You know, you're not expected to go win games. You're just trying to drop your 15 to 17 points and get out of there and go chill in the limelight, right?
Right.
But when you're on a team now that has a superstar level player, an MVP caliber player in Embiid, you have another MVP caliber player now in Harden, and you also have an up-and-comer in Tyrese Maxey who really wants it. You're relegated to being the fourth option now. That changes your whole persona on the team. Now you're a 3-and-D guy instead of being a 15 to 20-point guy that they need you to be consistently. So it sucks because not all players can adjust to that. We saw Russell Westbrook really struggle with that in LA as well, adjusting to a lesser role. Seems like Tobias Harris is kind of doing the same thing.
He is. It's sad because I actually think he's got more game. I think you're right, though. I think sometimes it might be mentally he just can't figure it out, man. So – but let's change gears, man. Let's change gears here.
All right.
So let's talk NFL. Let's talk NFC. So
I see all that K-State stuff back there, bro. And then I saw the intro. You played at K-State?
I did. Yeah, I played at K-State in 97 and 98. We were pretty good then.
Okay.
We were pretty good.
I'm trying to think who was on the squad then.
Michael Bishop. He was a quarterback.
Oh, yeah. Y'all were dogs back then.
Yeah. We were pretty good. We were pretty good.
We
were pretty good back then. We were all right. So, but we, the quarterbacks in the NFL right now, it seems that all the good quarterbacks in the AFC. So I was wanted to let's talk about who is in the NFC. Who is a quarterback that maybe people aren't talking about as much, or maybe there isn't any. I know Jalen Hurts is going to be in that conversation of being a top quarterback. I think a guy that doesn't get the credit is Jared Goff. I think Jared Goff is better than what people are giving him credit for. I think he is. I still don't understand why the Lions drafted Hendon Hooker. I don't get it. Goff is 28. He's playing well. I mean, last time I checked, every franchise wants a 28-year-old quarterback that's playing well. Apparently the Lions don't. So tell me what you think as far as NFC quarterbacks. Is there any good ones besides Hurts?
I think it's tough because half of them are hurt, right?
Yeah.
And no pun intended,
Yeah.
but half of them are hurt. When you talk about a guy like Kyler Murray, talk about Matt Stafford, and it's like, what's going on with Trey Lance? Like, there's a number of quarterbacks that we haven't seen on the field in a while, and so, I think Jalen Hurts is up there. I still think you got to give Kirk Cousins his respect, but yes, Jared Goff has entered that conversation. He's probably up there at number like 4 or 5. I would still throw Dak in that conversation as well. Yeah. Derek Carr, he's probably more in that Derek Carr range to me. Jared Goff is. So I'd probably put him in that like 5, 6 range, but he's up there right now just due to injury. Now, if we got a lot that's unseen with like a Jordan Love, some of these other quarterbacks, but I think that Jared Goff is undervalued. I think your point is very on spot there. And I think he was that way even on the Rams. A young quarterback that took a team to a Super Bowl, and Sean McVay got all the credit for that. I think that was a little, there was some disservice done to Jared Goff, who, as a young quarterback, maybe wasn't making all the right plays and reads, but showed at times that he could lead a team to wins, which is what you want out of your quarterback. Your quarterback has to be able to deliver winning football. And that's what he's doing now with the Lions. I think he's getting the respect that he deserves. And Hendon Hooker seemed more like a Band-Aid, if things don't work out this year with Jared Goff, now they can move to Hendon Hooker after he has a chance to recover.
Yeah, I just, again, and we'll get into more of some teams later, but yeah, I just don't understand it. I think Jared Goff is fine, but you're a San Fran guy. Let's talk about the 49ers. My opinion on the 49ers, and you're the expert on the 49ers. I will gladly let you take the lead. I think that Brock Purdy is hurt more than what they say. They kept pushing off his surgery. He had the surgery like a month and a half later than what he was supposed to. I don't think he's going to be there to start the season. I don't think he's going to be healthy enough. That's why they got Sam Darnold there, because otherwise, why did you bring Sam Darnold if you have Trey Lance? I was for sure Trey Lance was getting traded during the draft. I'm like, okay, he's gone. When that didn't happen, I said, Brock Purdy's still hurt. He's hurt worse than what they are saying. His elbow is worse than what they are saying. They need Trey Lance on the football team to start the season. Now, as a 49er fan, I will let you take it and go.
Brock Purdy is the guy, right? That's the guy who showed he can win. He was undefeated while he was healthy. Obviously, they lost the game to the Eagles. But Brock Purdy is the guy that they want in the building right now. He's the safe choice.
Mm-hmm.
Trey Lance will have every opportunity in the world to show that he is the guy that they drafted 2 years ago. Now, I think you're right. Brock Purdy is. You talk about Tommy John, UCL, your throwing arm. There's a lot of concern, not just this season, like long-term career-wise. This could be something that Brock Purdy has to deal with. And as a guy they're not heavily invested in, 7th-round pick, last pick of the draft, there's no need for them to fully commit to Brock Purdy when they can see what they have in Trey Lance. And you have a backup in Sam Darnold, who low-cost option, can throw the football a little bit. And we know what Shanahan does with mediocre quarterbacks, right?
Correct.
So I think this is set up very nicely for the Niners. And all those Trey Lance rumors were just that, rumors, because there was no way in hell the Niners are going to trade Trey Lance, knowing that Brock Purdy's probably going to miss the first portion of the season and that Sam Darnold would have been the only quarterback on the roster that was healthy. Didn't make any sense to me. Trey Lance is the guy moving forward. I think they're just trying to light a fire under his ass right now.
I got you. I think the same thing. I still think Lance can play, man. I still think he does, because the first year, it was first year. It is what it is. But last year, look, he played in the damn monsoon. Nobody was going to play well that first game in Chicago in that monsoon. Nobody was going to do that. Then the next game, he did play well. Then he broke his ankle. I'm like, so I think he's got something. He just hasn't had the opportunity. I think the 49ers would be crazy to give up on that. First of all, they gave up a ton to get him. Give him the opportunity to play. And if he can, you're winning. If he can't, you already know what you got. I think they're in a good position personally.
It makes, like, if you're trying to get to the level that they are, right? The Niners know they can be a Super Bowl team with a guy that can deliver the football at Kyle Shanahan's will. They know that. But
Right.
can they win the Super Bowl without somebody that can truly unlock the offense? And if you find that with Trey Lance, you're set for the next 5 to 7 years. Easily. Yep. You have a very competitive team already. Your coaching staff is there. The run game's there. You've invested in pieces, Deebo Samuel, Christian McCaffrey, George Kittle. Offensive pieces around him. The defense is phenomenal. The team is drafted well. If Trey Lance is your guy for the next at least 3 years, because he's on the third year of his deal and you could fifth year option him, if he is the guy, you have at least a 3-year championship window where you know you have the potential to beat a team like Philly. You have the potential to beat some of these other higher scoring teams. You have to see what you have in Trey Lance and fully unlock the offense. I don't see why they don't give him a chance.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I just think he's that guy. Like I said, another thing about Purdy that nobody ever talks about is he never really had to come back. You know, was they down 10 points in the third quarter? Did he have to come back and win that game? No. Are they down 7 points in the fourth quarter on the road? Did he come back and win that game? He was never in that position. Now, that's a good thing that they didn't have him in that position, but at the same time, look, I saw Brock Purdy for 4 years at Iowa State, and the knock on him was literally what I just said. He couldn't get it done when you had to come back. He wasn't the guy to be. He couldn't put a team on his back and say, I'm going to go win the football game. Now, the 49ers, yes, 49ers got a great roster. So he didn't have to do that. But there are going to be times when you have to do that in a season. I'm just not sure he's there. I know a lot of 49er fans love him because he did play great, and you cannot take that away from him. But let's get him in the fire a little bit and see how he comes out on the other side.
Yeah, had a pretty easy schedule too.
Yeah, they did.
The schedule, the second half of the schedule is pretty easy for us.
Yeah, they did. Now, a guy here. Now, I live here in Dallas, so a guy here. Yeah, I mean, I love Dallas. Don't get me wrong, but the Cowboy fans are unbearable.
So I see the Steelers stuff in the back. You're a Steeler fan, not a Cowboy fan, right?
Absolutely, 100%. I'm a diehard Steeler fan. I wouldn't root for Dallas to save my life, and I love it. I live about 10 minutes from the Star. I go and record stuff there all the time, making fun of them, and it's great. But Dak Prescott, I think Dak Prescott is what he is. He is a 4th-round draft pick that got drafted on an outstanding roster, and he played well. He just didn't get in the way. When it came time for Dak to get paid, it was, okay, we got to pay this guy because he's won these games. He's played pretty well. But the thing about Dak Prescott, to me, is you're paying him $45 million, but Dak needs a good line, a good running game, 2 good receivers, and an outlet, a tight end, or somebody. He needs all of that to be good. If you're paying somebody $45 million, you shouldn't need all of that. Some of that stuff is, you know what, I'm good enough to make somebody else better. Dak isn't that guy.
I think I don't know. I disagree with that because you see a guy like Lamar, you see a guy like Justin Fields, you see some of these other quarterbacks with lesser weapons, and they still get things done. Correct. Dak just isn't the 5,000-yard Dak that people were assuming he would be.
No.
The 40 touchdown type Dak. That's not who he is at heart. Like you mentioned, at heart, he's a 4th-round draft pick who overperformed early in his career. Mm-hmm. We got to call it what it is. You're right.
Exactly.
But I do think Dak is a solid quarterback with a good foundation. He knows the offense. He knows the team around him. And he's probably one of the better quarterbacks in the NFC. We just talked about how there's no quarterbacks in the NFC.
No, there isn't.
So overpaid, yes. Overperformed early in his career, yes. Still a viable quarterback for this Dallas Cowboys team that is trying to put pieces around him. I do see that. They went out and got Brandon Cooks. Obviously, Tony Pollard is expected to take an elevated level of play. The line isn't the same as what it used to be. But if Dak can at least be a 4,500-yard passer, 25 touchdowns, I think this can help the Cowboys team. They got to figure out defensively, obviously defensively is where they're getting carried. They have to figure out, are they going to be a run first team, or are they going to truly let Dak carry the offense? If they truly let Dak carry the offense, going for 5,000 yards, that's not a winning formula for the Cowboys.
Absolutely not. They got to run the football for Dak to be successful. I mean, even when he was playing his best, Zeke was running that football. So for them to be at their best, they got to have a good running game, and it can't just be an average running game. It needs to be a good running game, and you don't have to say that about all quarterbacks either, man.
I don't think it's going to happen though. I think that's the scary part for the Cowboys, is that the Eagles have taken over this division very easily. And the Cowboys really, outside of the defense, the Cowboys don't really seem that they're going to pose a threat. Everybody's so excited about Tony Pollard, but he doesn't have the frame that Ezekiel Elliott had. He has to be able to hold up through an entire season. What, he fractured his tibia towards the end of last year?
Yeah.
In a limited role, in a backup capacity. I'm kind of scared that this team, I know they got Malik Davis, they just drafted Deuce Vaughn, but do you have a guy that can be a feature back for you, unless they're just passing and checking it down to him and limiting his touches? I don't see a 300 touch year from Tony Pollard and how he makes it through.
If you give him a 300 touch year, he may be able to be productive, but the next year he'll be finished. And maybe that's the reason that the Cowboys didn't sign him to a long-term deal and they franchised him, because he is not a 25 to 30 touch guy a game. He's just not that guy. And I like what he does, but I think true Dallas Cowboy fans will tell you the same thing too. He can't be a guy that you're giving the ball 25 to 30 times, because his effectiveness will wear down, because just like you said, he's not a big guy and he will wear down.
I'm surprised they haven't gone out and got like Leonard Fournette, just somebody who can go take half of those touches away from him. Because if you really think that, if anybody really thinks that Tony, like, it's not fantasy. This isn't Madden. You can't just put a guy back there, turn injuries off, and expect him to be the same performer on limited touches with that type of frame over the course of an entire season, like you mentioned, with 25, 30 touches. Right. It doesn't happen. We've seen that with the Cowboys before, where they try to put Felix Jones in that same circumstance in the late 2000s. It just doesn't work. Guys get injured, and the frame matters. You got to be able to have a bigger frame in order to do that. Tony Pollard is electric, but he's electric because A, defense is worn out, and B, he's fresh coming in the game most of the time.
100%.
On all those touches, man, I think he'll have some big games for the Cowboys, but I don't see him making it through the year if he's really going to be the volume guy that it looks like he's projected to be.
Well, word on the street here in Dallas is that Zeke is going to end up signing back. Is that Zeke just had to get past my ego is bruised that you cut me. I didn't want to stay, because I think the Cowboys said, look, you can take league minimum and we will keep you here.
Yeah,
but
dirty.
I think his ego was like, nope, I'm going to go.
Well, hey, I'd have been like, deuces.
Yeah, and he did. But now that nobody's signed him because he's still on the street, I think he's like, you know what? I can come back, take this reduced role. I love Dallas. Dallas loves me. My life is comfortable here. There's something to be said for all of that. So for him to come back and take that role of what you're talking about, it makes sense. Now, will they do it? I would have Leonard Fournette over Zeke, but I don't know. I think it's a strong possibility, because they're going to need somebody else. And as much as I love Deuce Vaughn, like I said, I played at K-State. I love Deuce Vaughn. Everybody wants to compare Deuce Vaughn to Darren Sproles. I'm like, nah, take a step back with that. He's not Darren Sproles. Darren Sproles is bigger. Darren Sproles is faster. Darren Sproles can run in between the tackles better. It's not that Deuce is bad. I'm not saying that, but you got to take a step back with that. They're not the same football player.
Yeah, I think playoff Lenny would be a really good look for the Cowboys, man. And
he would.
He brings a lot of what Zeke brings to the table, so
absolutely
he'd be a good fit.
He would. So let's wrap this up let's talk about some teams, either surprise teams and some teams that everybody thinks is going to be good, but is not going to be good. For me, and I guess, and I kind of wrote it down here a little bit, surprise team in the NFC, or just overall in general, a surprise team, I think is going to be the Cleveland Browns. I think the Browns are going to be a lot better. I think Deshaun Watson is still a top flight quarterback. He just had to get the rust off. The guy hadn't played in 20 months, man. That's tough for anybody, especially under his circumstances. An off season, they got more weapons. They still have that offensive line. They still got Nick Chubb. If the Browns can just find some way to slow down the opposing team's running game, if they can do that, I'm telling you, the Browns are going to be a problem. And look, I'm a Steeler fan. I'm resigned to the fact that we have the worst quarterback in the division. That makes it tough to win, man. It makes it tough. But the bottom line is, I think the Browns are going to be really good.
I agree with you there. I think the Browns they're going to be in that playoff hunt, for that wild card spot. And that's a tough ass division, man, because I think the Steelers can make the playoffs. I think Baltimore can make the playoffs. I do see a little bit of a downturn for the Cincinnati Bengals team. But for me, if I'm going to pick a team that I feel like can kind of come from the depths, the Los Angeles Chargers, they made the playoffs last year. They snuck in there. But I think they put in a lot stronger performance than they did last year. There was a really high bar for them. 13, 14 wins. Like that was the projection for the Chargers.
Yeah,
and it got to a point where they started being overrated, right? I think underrated, new offensive coordinator there, Kellen Moore. The pieces are healthy. Justin Herbert was dealing with an injury earlier in the season. Keenan Allen was out. Mike Williams was out. Austin Eckler, obviously unhappy with his contract, has a lot to play for right now. They were dealing with a lot of injuries defensively. I could see the Chargers making a strong run next year, but I could also see a team like the Jets kind of falling a little bit more and not meeting expectations. That would be the team I would say has like the biggest chance of like failure is the Jets. Just because you got Aaron Rodgers doesn't mean all your problems are solved. I think that everybody thinks that the defense was solid. Defense was so good, and we almost made the playoffs with Mike White and Zach Wilson. I don't think Aaron Rodgers comes in and cures everything. I still think that's a 500 team.
Yeah, they were good. The defense was good. Don't get me wrong. But I also watched that same defense play against the Steelers early in the season, and the Steelers got what they wanted. Kenny Pickett was just throwing the ball directly to them. If he doesn't do that, the Steelers beat him, and the Steelers couldn't score any points. So, and again, Rodgers will help some. I'm just not sure how great he's going to be. That's a team, again, high expectations based on that. Here's another team that everybody has a high expectations, and I'm not out on them. I just don't think they're going to meet them, is the Lions. Look, the Lions finished the season great, but the middle part and the beginning, the Lions were not bad. They were awful. And that defense was awful. And I know that they finished the season strong. I'm just telling you, the high expectations. Did they really fix the defense? I mean, did they do enough to fix it to be competitive? We'll see. I think the expectations, people think they're going to win 11, 12 games. I don't see that at all.
Big B, you gonna come on the show talking about Jared Goff is the quarterback. You don't think he gets enough love, and now you're talking about Detroit don't got enough to win the division. They made a really aggressive move going to get Gibbs, so it feels like they're trying to blame all their problems now on like DeAndre Swift. He was the problem last year.
Unbelievable. I mean, and he got hurt and whatever, but you give away the guy that literally set the record for rushing touchdowns for a franchise. You get rid of him. You don't even sign him back. And you bring in a guy that I don't think is as good. Well, I don't think Montgomery's bad, but he's not as good. He wasn't as good as Williams. And then you draft Gibbs at 12 when you could have got him. You could probably trade it back and got him at 25. I'm like, what are you doing? But it's that kind of stuff. They had other needs that they could have taken and they could have done and built their roster up better, and they didn't do it. They decided to replace guys versus enhancing what they already have, and that's the reason why I don't think that they're taking that next step, man.
They still got to go through the Vikings. Vikings are the best team in that division.
They are, and the Vikings' defense is horrible.
It is.
Horrible, horrible, horrible. And I still think the Vikings win the division. I said the Lions early on. I don't believe that anymore. I think the Vikings win. Look, the Vikings are going to get better on defense by subtraction, just by getting rid of some of the guys that were there that just couldn't play anymore. One of those, well, Patrick Peterson played pretty good last year, but for the most part, the defense, it was just terrible. They could not tackle, and just bringing some other guys in, it can't be worse. So we'll see. I still think the Vikings are better. That the Bears will be better for sure in that division.
Bears will be better. I'm not on the Bears though. I'm kind of sketch on the Bears.
They didn't do enough for the offensive line for me. They still didn't do enough.
That's the biggest thing is like they're still not going to protect Justin Fields the way they need to in order to give him time to, you go and get all these weapons, you go spend on tight end, you go trade for a wide receiver. You still got to fix the O-line. I know you drafted one early, but I don't know if that's enough. Darnell Wright, he's good he'll be a good tackle for him, but it might take a minute for that line to be solidified. It's not
Yeah.
this year.
It's not this year, but we'll see, man. Well, I appreciate you jumping on, brother. I really do,
Oh
man.
yeah.
Thank you. We are gonna have to do this a lot more often, and just chop it up and have some good conversation, have some good fun on here, man. So
Yes,
I
sir. Appreciate
appreciate
the
you.
invite, man. Good conversation. And we got a long off season, dog. So I'm sure there's a lot we can chop it up about, a lot to talk
Absolutely.
about. NBA still going on. So whenever you have me, man, I'll be back on.
All right, man. I appreciate it. Thank you, and we'll talk to you soon.